Hello, my name is Nevita George. I'm a research assistant at the Laboratory to Combat Human Trafficking, and this is my story. When I first immigrated here from Singapore, when I was around 3 years old, I was one of the first. In my small little town in Texas, I was the first person of color, the first darker skinned person of color. And being the first in a lot of the spaces is really what motivated me to get into this work to begin with, just because I started understanding how lonely it is to be minoritized in this field and in this work. And that was another part with being an immigrant, especially my parents. We really had the mindset that you're here, we're lucky to be here, you keep your head down and you keep moving forward. We're in the US and that's enough. But I think what I'm learning as I'm growing up is that this is my home. I deserve to be here and I deserve to have a voice here, and so does everyone else who looks like me and doesn't. One thing I'm not quite sure how to articulate, but we don't want to leave our home countries. You know, that's where we feel safe, that's where our family is, but that's not where a lot of choices are. So we came to the US, we learned the preamble to the Constitution in terms of we're here to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility for all of our citizens, we the people. And it was just such a wow moment for us immigrating here. But then I started realizing that we the people doesn't always mean we, all the people. It could be we the people who have been here the longest. It could be we the people who could uphold the systems that we're still in. And that was a hard lesson for me because we the people didn't always include me. And so that's really what got me interested in this issue, to provide that choice back to individuals, to preserve mental health, and again, create a safe community where we could preserve choice to actually be we the people. I would say when I was around 7 or 8 years old, we would go to India all of the time, and my grandparents were very formative in my life. And they're actually the ones who presented the issue to me. We were shopping one day, and it was just a regular news channel that came on the TV, and there was a human trafficking case that was broadcasted. And more than the details I remember about the case, I just remember seeing the looks on the faces of the people around me. And specifically because my grandparents pointed it out, the storekeepers showed content not for the issue we noticed, but for the humans who were affected. But then when I looked at my grandparents, what I saw in their eyes was compassion and love, but then seeing that very clear juxtaposition of other people in the community saying, these are people who didn't conform and didn't fit in, and these are people that are outside of myself. Afterwards, they're just villainized even more and ostracized from society, again, adding to that loneliness factor. I cannot think of a more painful and a more anti-human experience in taking away someone's choice to their body and their mental health than human trafficking. And so that was the first lesson for me, not only about human trafficking, but about empathy, what it means to not understand a person's experience, but to have compassion anyway. And because you don't need to understand someone else's experience completely to be able to show kindness and empathy towards them. My connection. So right now, I am an RA for the 3rd iteration of the Colorado Project 2023. This opportunity is very special for me, just not only because of the research and how much I've grown in terms of learning what it is to be an ethical scientist, but also learning what it means to be human throughout this whole process. I've been really interested recently in this idea of disillusionment, and that is essentially saying that you don't follow in with the status quo. You ask the hard questions, you have the difficult conversations, not because it's easy, but because it's right and it's compassionate rather than understanding. And that is what has been the greatest connection for me to the Laboratory to Combat Human Trafficking, just because they reminded me to be a person first in this work and to bring my most genuine foot forward. Yeah, my encouragement to people who are just getting into this issue is that first, it is scary. It's a huge issue to just look at objectively, especially when you see movies like Taken. And that's what I've been hearing a lot over these past few months in terms of how much that media has controlled the narrative on what human trafficking looks like within the US. But I think the first thing I would say is just to take a step back. Don't look at it as trafficking, look at it as this person is not able to fully enjoy the human experience, but I could make a difference. I could be a community voice. Take a step back, take it in chunks, and before you know it, you'll be all in.